Well, hello, one and all, and welcome to the Consistent AK podcast. My name's Luke, and I'm joined as ever by Nick Good. This episode, we're talking about lots of good, positive things. We are going to talk about the brand new Spider-Man film, Across the Spider-Verse, which Nick and I have both seen, and we're both very happy with the film. We also talk a little bit about more Spider-Man. We talk about Insomniac Games Spider-Man 2, which was all announced and footage was shown at the PlayStation Showcase a couple of weeks ago. And we wrap it up by talking a bit about TV. We talk about a little bit about Ted Lasso, and we talk about The Marvelous Miss Maisel, both season finales, and just a couple of other things thrown in. So, put your headphones on, turn them up, grab a cuppa, and enjoy the Consistent AK podcast. Place to start with this pop culture episode. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We've both seen it.
Yes.
It's very, very good.
It is. Yes.
You messaged me when you saw it, saying how much you enjoyed it.
Yes, I think we've talked about this before, but I thought that the first one was potentially like the best comic book film. Like, it was everything, and I just thought it was original. It was interesting, and this one I think slightly outdoes it. I think at the time,
I think it's better than the first one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I love the first one, like, really love it, and this one, I think, like, the thematic nature of it, I think, is better, and I think that's what I like. The first one, I think we talked about it, that I really like the sort of, like, it's kind of like a coming of age story, but it's like you're becoming a superhero, I guess. And that it's very much about Miles trying to find his place as Spider-Man. And there's that great, like, reflection thing where it's like when he first looks at the suit, he's too small, and then when he looks at it again, he's the perfect height, and it's like he's ready, and he takes the suit and everything. And in this one, what I really like is sort of like the meta nature of it, of like folks who would have come out of Into the Spider-Verse and said they've changed Miles Morales' like origin, that it's not, his dad that dies, it's Aaron, and they've sort of moved things around. And this sort of gives you that as a story, which is like, whoa. And then on top of that, it's all about things you can't outrun, like things that you just have to face, that you absolutely can't get away from. And I think that is the thing that I was like, I think that's where I was like, this is better. I think I just really like those kind of stories where it's like there's an inevitability to what you have to go through to make you into a certain kind of person.
Yeah. I agree. I totally agree. I think the reason I like it more than the second one is because it doesn't. They easily could have made this film all about Peter Parker. The Jake Johnson. Jesus, Here we go. Not remembering names again. But they didn't. Like, he was in it, but he wasn't like a massive part of it.
Mm-hmm.
The focus, rightly so, was on Miles and Spider-Gwen and their relationship. I love the fact that it opens with Spider-Gwen getting her sort of like introduction and the way it looks and feels, and Miles isn't even in it for the first sort of, I don't know, 15, like 20 minutes 15, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a great story, and it feels like towards the end, especially like sort of Infinity War level story, where like so many people are involved, but you get a twist at the end, but you're waiting for that payoff. I mean, when it got to the end of this film, it felt like it just flown by, and I was really gutted that it was coming to the end. That's the same I felt with Infinity War. Like, I was buzzing after I saw Infinity War. Like, I can't wait another year for this. And it's the same I feel with this film. I thought it looks great. You completely forget it's animation.
Yeah,
Like you are watching it and you just get completely lost. It's so good how it looks, and the voice cast is just incredible. Like, I mean, Oscar Isaac, I mean, Apocalypse aside, I think he really seems to like fill every role that he's given. I mean, even with Apocalypse, even though it was terrible, like he did his best with what he had. I think they could have just need to make him like 20 foot tall instead of smaller than every other character with looking weird. Anyway, let's not go down that road. But
yeah,
it's a great film. It's a great sequel. It's a great part of a trilogy. I could watch it. I could have turned around and watched it again straight away. I came home. I didn't get to watch it with my wife. I went with some friends, and I just said, like, you will love it. Like, it's so well done. There are some really good stakes, like the twists that they do in it, like the whole, you have to see, everyone knows we do spoilers, but like these things have to happen. Like you have to lose an Uncle Ben, or you have to lose a captain, or something like that. But then the realization that when Spider-Gwen's with her dad, and the dad's like, "Well, I'm not going to be a captain." Like it's just like she's like, "Fucking hell!" Like Miles is right, and it's just everything. Like Miles, the way Miles looks, he's bigger than he was in the first film. Like you can distinctly see that he's taller. I like the fact that the villain, one of the villains, Spot, like he's just a joke at the beginning, but then it's like this guy's actually going to be pretty terrifying. Like he's going to be bad. I know I'm talking a lot very quickly. For those watching this, by the way, the reason I look like a tomato is because I've just come back from football, so I am like mentally exhausted and physically exhausted. But yeah, it's great. Like I want to watch it again now, and I can't wait for the next one.
Yeah, I thought just like on every front it just worked. Like the story was great. I remember thinking the first one as well, like the art style of Gwen's world, where it's like that
pastel,
kind of like, that was so good. And in this it looked especially good. Like you got more time in it.
You have to see it in cinema, don't you? It's one of those films. I know everyone says stuff about like the Avatar films and stuff, which I don't care for, but it's like this. You have to see this in the cinema, really. Like it's or like on a really fucking big TV.
Yeah, it is just so immersive, and like all the different worlds as well. Like all feel so distinct. Like they've really spent a lot of time like figuring out what the art style is. Like that's always the coolest thing, is that like in Spider-Verse you get a sense of like a few different art styles, but this is like a whole other thing. This is
massive. I mean, I think I read something, there's like 1,000 animators on it, and they must have had teams working on different worlds, like just like the little things like the Lego world and things like that. Like
I read he did that as well. That was like did you read this?
The 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's nuts. Like
that's crazy, isn't it?
So cool.
Here we are wasting our lives.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like it's crazy the animators and stuff, and how young that kid is who did it. Just everything, like the way Spider-Punk looks, like every style. And it's not just that, because I think in Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse rather, like I know Spider-Ham and stuff and Spider-Noir, they looked different, but it didn't feel like the animation was as disorienting. Not in a bad way, like in a good way. Like it's like they all kind of just looked kind of a bit like it wasn't jarring. Like it wasn't like this is different and this is a different world and this is a different world. But like Spider-Punk was distinctly a different kind of animation to Miles Morales, to Spider-Gwen, to what's the Indian Spider-Man called? I can't remember his name
now. Blanked.
He's really funny though. Like
really good.
That says off. It's also really funny. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's also really funny. Like there are bits in it that are just. It's not like side-splitting funny, but it's just like the baby Peter Parker, Mary Jane's baby. Like when she pulls the mask down, like it's the little things that just are amusing, and that's what Into the Spider-Verse was like. I think it's just the whole package. Like I've got nothing bad to say about it. I love the fact that they had a very, very good twist, like when Miles goes back to the wrong world. I was just realizing that my wife is mere feet away from me and has not seen it yet. So
the spoilers.
So yeah,
Yeah, it is just wondrous in terms of like the depth of it. I think the sheer like epicness of what they give you, and yet they manage to constantly like root it in heartfelt emotion. Like the sort of like crux of it all, when like Miles makes his decision, he's like, I'm going to make my own way. It's just like one of the coolest moments. Like, I don't know if it matches emotionally the same like hit as like What's Up Danger, like the bit where he swings in the first one. I just, in the cinema, I was like, fuck yeah.
But because there is a bit more emotion in the first one, isn't there, with Uncle Aaron and everything like that. Like Miles is going through like trying to find his way as Spider-Man and try and work out if he's what he can do with it, and his limitations, and obviously the things that he's gone through in that film. But this doesn't feel, obviously there are big stakes because he's trying to save his dad and everything, but this feels like you said, the bit when he's on the rocket and he makes his decision and he knows what he's going to do and he goes against all the other Spider people, but it's just also how good of a Spider-Man he is. Like they don't, there's no sort of like, you don't at any point think he's not going to make it. He's just somehow better than all of them, pretty much. I loved it. Like I really liked it. Soundtrack, the way it looks, the acting, story. I think they could have easily got a bit lost. I think they easily could have got
like
fallen to their own hype. It could have been like it's not as good as the first one, but people have gone nuts for it, haven't they?
Yeah. Like it seems to have done so well, and I'm so glad about that. Because
it was a rough patch for like, obviously Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was very good, and this is really good. And then we've got the Flash, which is it's getting some good reviews, isn't it?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I think with this, and I saw Phil Lord and Chris Miller, who, for anybody listening, produced this, directed the first. And did they write the first? Did they write this? I think. Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
I saw that they were talking about like superhero fatigue and sort of saying how like they don't think that superhero fatigue is a thing. They think it's actually, I've seen this exact same film several times before, fatigue. And I can kind of see that. I think that's probably a more articulate way of what I've been trying to say for the better part of this season of podcasting, where I'm kind of like, they need more depth in superhero films. Like they need more uniqueness and like an interesting thing, because they're, for a long time, like basically the entire season of phase 4 of Marvel was basically the same thing. It was, here's a Easter egg, here's a reference, here's a character, here's an actor. But none of it had like weight. Like none of it meant anything. It was all just like, we're just going to keep giving you this, and they're going to be the things you talk about. Like fucking, I like his music, but Harry Styles randomly just appearing in the Eternals, like it doesn't mean anything. It's just Harry Styles is in it. And it's the same with what's his face, the guy from Ted Lasso in Thor. It doesn't mean anything. It's just that he is a popular actor, and they've thrown him in and gone like, here he is.
I mean, it will be good if he's Hercules and he talks like
Roy Kent. That'd be amazing.
Or smacks him with a hammer. Fuck.
But like that's the thing that I think then, like when you get to something like Across the Spider-Verse or Guardians 3, is that they have a very unique stamp on the kind of thing that they're telling. Like they both have emotional threads and they both have stakes which are really, really high. And I think the interesting thing about Across the Spider-Verse is that like there are so many plot threads, and each one could be its own film. Like the story of Gwen trying to tell her dad, you know, that I'm Spider-Gwen, it doesn't change anything, like it doesn't change who I am, whatever. That could be a film.
Peter being
dad, like Miles, just in terms of like, he's the spider that bit him wasn't meant for him. Like that's a story. But then they've added it all on top of each other And it's like you get this really dynamic thing and this really interesting approach to storytelling where it's like, I'm invested in every single one of these characters. Like there is nobody on the sidelines that I'm like, I don't know who that is. I could give or take some of the cameos. Like, I'm not sure I needed the
Donald Glover.
Yeah, like I really like Donald Glover, but I'm not sure I needed it. And the same with what's her face from Venom. I mean that.
It was a bit of a random one, but I kind of get it because they wanted a human that wouldn't be phased, right? But
yeah,
it's all a bit. Some of them were a bit just okay, that's fine, but there were some nice ones as well. Like I think it's very special to see like Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire and stuff like that. And obviously they mentioned Doctor Strange and things. Although they're doing things like that, kind of makes me think like, well, how do they talk about that? But then Kang isn't mentioned at all. Like like that stuff puts me off a bit. Obviously they had the Spider-Man 2 Insomniac Games game in there,
cool.
and Spider-Man was actually in there. So
yeah, and he got a line of dialogue as well, which was cool.
He did, yeah. And you got nice. You said about superhero fatigue. Then something I read is that it's not about superhero. It's not that people don't like superhero films. It's that people don't like bad superhero films. So it's not like like you can look at things like Eternals and everything like that, which I actually didn't mind that much, but you can see like it doesn't. Obviously, that's not going anywhere now, is it? It's just what it is. But you see Chris Hemsworth coming out yesterday saying that Thor 4 was too goofy, like is what we said in our when we talked about it. It's like it just wasn't serious enough. Thor is a serious character. That comic is a very serious comic. Like the god butcher goes and kills a bunch of gods, but they made it really silly. And he said they just got carried away with it. But then you see something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and you think these are like you said, the high stake films, and they just, I mean, it's just this is just its own thing, isn't it? I know they've linked in loads of different like threads and everything like that, but it's just incredible. It looked so good, it felt so good to watch it. So
I just came out of it and I was like, that was like, it just felt like something special, and it felt kind of the same as coming out the first, where I was just like, that was like, I just felt like I hadn't seen it before.
I think that's felt different to the first as well. Like I know it has a lot of similar, like it's very similar in terms of what it is, but it just felt unique. Like it felt like you could watch this one without even seeing the first one and just be like, Jesus Christ, that was great. Like, got no context really, but it's great.
How soon did you see the twist at the end?
I didn't actually see it. I didn't see it not until it took me basically. I don't know. It kind of clicked, probably just before Spider-Gwen kind of clicked with it.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't. I had no sense about it until those moments. I was kind of like, when Miles Morales' mom is kind of like, "Oh, there's no Spider-Man." I was like, something is weird here. But I was like, it'll make sense in a minute.
Yeah.
And obviously Spider-Gwen going into the wrong window was sort of like, oh, she's in the wrong place. He's in the wrong place. I don't know what's going on. But then when they said about the spider, I was like, oh man, like now it's so obvious now because he read its code and everything. So smart twist.
Yeah, like really smart. I think. Yeah, I sort of.
Did you?
No, I think mine was like the moment as soon as she said like, "Who's Spider-Man?" I was like, "Oh, he's in the universe where like his spider came from." And then I hadn't even thought about like him being the Prowler until Aaron's like, "I'm not the Prowler," and then I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be Miles." But I just hadn't thought about it. Like the bit where he comes in to the city and it's like sort of a different color because it's like quite green with like the rain and everything. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like we've never seen it like that. And I remember thinking like that was an interesting choice. That was like, there is a Miles Morales comic book that has a cover that is very similar.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I was in the comic shop today and I watched it with a couple of guys from work, and I took all 4 comics that were in the film. There's one where Miles Morales is upside down when he's looking at Spider-Gwen. It's like a crossover comic. And the 2 omnibuses with that cover, there's 2, and they literally, it's like, bam, it's like in going down the street, and it's the green background and everything. And I just like, this is what I was trying to tell you at the end of the film.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very clever. Like they put a lot of thought into the people that have worked in the comics, the people that probably worked on the first film, and there's a lot of it's just a massive like celebration for Spider-Man. Like, I mean, what a great most people probably listen to this. I'm such a big Spider-Man fan. Like, he's like my be all end all of my comic love. He is my everything. And you think about like the MCU films I've really enjoyed. The game has been fantastic. You've got this. You've had the first one of this. You've got this one now, and something we're going to talk about when we wrap this a little bit up now. Obviously, you got the new game, Spider-Man 2, coming up in just a few months. Yes. Because we're going to have that, right? And then a few like moments after that, we're going to have the next one of this. So
yeah,
we're laughing. Like,
I was thinking that when I was watching it as well. I was like, this is nuts that like we've got this, and then give it a few months, we'll have Spider-Man 2 as the game, and then just a couple of months after that, we'll be back in Spider-Verse. Like, that is crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that leads us nicely into something else that happened a couple of weeks ago. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Way in the past, if you're listening later. I don't know why I talk about dates. There's no point.
It was the week you were in England.
The week I was in England. Nick and I were in it. We just talk about England. We saw each other.
We did.
It was great. So there was a PlayStation showcase, and they showed quite a few things. But the biggest thing that we would probably want to talk about is that Insomniac Games gave us a trailer and a few minutes of gameplay of Spider-Man 2, which both Nick and I are very, very excited about. Both huge fans of the first game. And after the disappointment of Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League and the shit show that is turning out to be, this did not disappoint. This is exactly what you should get when they... Not only does it look like they're keeping the release date, which I know could change. Like, I know, I'm not an idiot. Like, I know they could say we need a bit more time. But this looked like it needed a little bit of polishing. But you could see there was a clear plan. Like, they had an idea. They knew what they were going to do. It looks like they haven't fucked around with much of it. Like, it's like, this is what people liked. We've made it bigger. And, just, it looked... I love the look of Kraven the Hunter, one of my favorite villains. Probably one of my... I think it is actually... I don't know, it's my favorite Spider-Man comic, Kraven's Last Hunt. I love that comic so dearly that any iteration of Kraven the Hunter is good, and he just looks... There's a bit... Did you see the story of it when he's walking through the jungle, or someone who looks like him is walking through the jungle and then Kraven kills him? Like, just... It's easy to think that with the way the first one was, that Kraven the Hunter will be like the villain that is like Mr. Negative, right? That he'll be the villain throughout the game, and a bit like Arkham City as well. That Ra's al Ghul is like not the villain; he's just like a villain, but then he's actually the one pulling all the strings. Because obviously you got Venom in this game as well, and Peter Parker's got the symbiote suits. So it looks good. Looks like there's a few cool new moves, cool new tricks. It looks like I read that you can. It's not like you can dive between Spider-Man and Miles Morales whenever you want to. When the story's going on, it all plays out. So you switch when you need to, but when you're doing side missions, you can jump between the two, which I much prefer. Like,
that's cool.
The idea is, and there's no co-op, is there? That's what I read as well. Like, which I don't think it needs either. I don't think it needs co-op. Like, I can't wait. What did you think of it all?
Yeah, I thought it looked really cool. Like, it was a huge set piece, sort of reminded me of like Uncharted 4. In terms of like how the action moves and stuff, that was really cool. I think the switching between the characters, like when you're not on a story mission, is cool. I kind of wonder whether they almost do different side quests for the two of them, and that's how you get like a bigger scope.
I wondered if they do, because the map's supposed to be twice the size, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if like Miles has certain... I mean, not that Spider-Man should be limited to certain areas, but like if Miles Morales is more linked to like Brooklyn type thing, and then Peter Parker is like in the city more. Like I would think it would be something cool like that. Would be nice.
Yeah.
I really want it to be like same like Last of Us 2 type and Spider-Man. Like, I just want it to never end. I just want to dive in and just be fully invested in the whole thing. I saw when it was announced like there was some fake accounts with some fake PlayStation 5 versions going around. I was like, oh man, why did I get a PlayStation 5 when I could have got that, but it was fake. But
yeah,
it's I'm really excited. It looked great.
Yeah, I'm very, very intrigued by it. And yeah, I think it was. I don't know if it was my highlight of the showcase because they showed Alan Wake 2, which is like everything I want.
Be all end all, right?
Yeah, like that. The first Alan Wake was like my favorite game for the longest time until Last of Us. And there he is. For anybody on the audio, switch over to the video right now because you're going to get a
symbiote Spider-Man figure running around.
Yeah,
you just happen to be here. I'm not holding this whole action figure this whole time.
You do that. But yeah, so it was definitely like the kind of like second thing in the showcase. I was like, this just looks fantastic. And yeah, I'm just so curious how the full story plays out. I think like the ending, I assume, is going to be the two of them fight, and it's about getting the symbiote off Peter.
Yeah, it seems like that's good. Or at least 3/4 the way through the game, they're going to have a fight, aren't they? Before they realize they're going to have to go. I mean, there is a chance, obviously, that Venom and Kraven link.
Yeah.
Like Kraven's losing, so he's the one who takes Venom, and then he's a super duper bad guy. I hope they go back. I hope they visit some of the old villains as well. There looks like there's a map, doesn't there? And Taskmaster's on there, and Black Cat's on there. I hope Doc Ock is like there's some like link there. Like there's something like like how Joker was always pulled back into the Arkham games even after his death and stuff. Like I would like there to be like some overlapping there. It'd be nice.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool. Black Cat especially as well, because like the DLC that they did about her story, I thought was great.
Yeah, it was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that version of Black Cat's really interesting.
They've got a bunch of villains they haven't done. I saw Shocker was on the screenshot as well. Obviously, they're doing Lizard, who looks fantastic in this.
Yeah,
and there's a bunch of villains. I mean, I'd love some Mysterio action in there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So, because Mysterio wasn't in the first game, was he?
Don't think so. I can't remember.
Why am I thinking about a bit of Mysterio when Peter Parker's like walking around and there's a bunch of people dressed up in Halloween costumes? What is that?
Yeah, I don't know
what that game is. It wasn't Spider-Man, surely.
There is the bit where you do walk around like a Halloween section, and it's like a party go through. But I don't remember Mysterio. Maybe I've just completely forgotten that. But I do remember the bit where you walk through like a college party, and it's like Halloween. I think.
I just feel like he was looking for Mysterio, but then I can't remember fighting Mysterio. Only one thing to do: play the game again.
Got time.
Got time. Got time before that baby comes to play it all over again. And finish Red Dead Redemption 2 and God of War 2 and every other sequel that I've not finished yet. So two other things as well. I know, one other thing we want to finish the episode talking about, but I special mentioned something we've never actually talked about on this podcast, but Ted Lasso finished its TV show, which I didn't actually know you watched until you mentioned it when we were in England. But I just wanted to say that for those of you who haven't watched it, they think because it's about football that they shouldn't watch it. You really should watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't watch football, and I don't.
I mean, there's a lot of people I know that don't watch it because of football, but there's people that I do know that don't like football that watch it, and I think it's like one of those shows where if you wanted a show, especially season 1, where like it's just enjoyable. There's no real evilness or badness or twists or anything like that. It's just a really good show. Season 2 goes a bit up and down because they try and put like a bit of a like antagonist in there and they try and like mix it up a little bit. But season 3 kind of redeems itself because it's so wholesome and good and funny. It's really fucking funny in places. Like I dig that humor. Like there's a character called Jamie Tart and a character called Roy Kent, and their whole relationship for like 3 seasons is probably the best thing about the whole thing.
Yeah, it's good.
So people should check that out if they've not read it. If they've not watched it yet.
Yeah. I also, just to go off that, like things that we were talking about in England, I started The Bear last night.
That's fucking great. Did I tell you to watch that?
Yeah, you did. And I'd said it was on my list for a long time. And then Charles and I had like finished watching The Terminal List. And we were like, we need something else to watch. So we started The Bear. And I just thought we watched 2 episodes, and the first episode and the second episode was great, but the first episode I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like the writing is phenomenal. It's like so quick. There's so much going on. It's so like just engrossing.
There is an episode, right? And you'll know when you see it, and it's such good TV. So it's an episode, and it's not going to spoil anything, but there are no cuts in the whole episode.
Oh, I love those.
It's so well. Bearing in mind, it's in a kitchen, right?
Yeah.
It's so fucking good. Like,
nice.
And when you watch it and you read about it and you hear about how they were doing it and everything, it's like, right. So basically, we're going to do a theatre show in this TV space. It's just so fucking good. So yeah. I'm glad you're watching it.
Yeah, loving it. Like really loving it. I'll keep you updated as we go through the podcast. But
we started something really random. Like this is completely unrelated, but we were like, oh, we need to watch something in the background. So we started this an old ITV drama, probably. It's called Happy Valley.
Oh yeah, my mum watches it. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So it's just because like let's just try this. It's got good reviews, and we're in now. Like we're in deep, and it's really weird because it was like first season was in 2014, and then the second season was 2017, and the new season, the latest season, was just now.
Oh, that's gnarly.
So it's really odd to see like something that was shot in 2014 and gradually, because there's like huge gaps, but what we're watching in all go in like one go.
Yeah.
Like it's just like times have changed very quickly. For a lot's happened since 2014 to 2023. But anyway, it's quite brutal. Like it's not. It's got an actor I really like called James Norton.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah. So anyway, random, but that's what we're watching. It's the thing we're watching as a couple.
Nice.
But speaking of something I did watch with my wife as well, which we're big fans of this, and it was the end of it. It was The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Yes.
Man, I said a podcast a few ago, I wasn't a fan of all these flash forwards and everything, but you know what, Nick? It all worked out pretty well, didn't it? It all made sense. You knew, you trusted the process. I didn't. I was like, this is shit.
Although, like, the thing that I thought they were going to do, they didn't do. And the thing that they've done is definitely more interesting. Like, I think what I was thinking in my head was kind of the obvious thing. So I can talk about this now because, like, you finished it. So Lenny Bruce is obviously a real person. And in like the mid 60s, late 60s, I think it is, he dies of like an overdose. I think it's an overdose, or it's related to like morphine and stuff. And so when they started doing the flash forwards, and he's in the first episode of this season, like very briefly, I was like, oh, I think what they're going to do is he's going to die. And Midge's response is like, he's put me in this path to like always push for my career, and sort of to honor him, I'm gonna do it. And so it doesn't matter about the relationships in my life. It doesn't matter about that. It's about being the best. That's what I thought they were doing the flash forwards, is that it's like, what's the thing that puts her in this position of like, she's just so career orientated. And I was like, if they do the Lenny Bruce thing, I was like, that'll be heartbreaking, but you kind of understand it. And instead what they do is like, the whole show just suddenly becomes about the relationship between Midge and Susie. And I was like, oh my God, this is
genius. It's really well done, isn't it? Like that, those two are the ones that had to be about as well, because they're like from A to B, like the whole thing it rolls around that. I loved the talk show bit. I loved when Midge just went for it. I thought it was really well done. It's weird because when you listen to a comedy, like I don't think I've ever once laughed at a comedy.
There's been a couple where I was like, that's genius. But
I don't think I've ever I don't even think, because I'm just so like listening to everything she's saying. I don't think I've actually gone like, haha, that was funny. Like I was in the audience in real life, I probably wouldn't laugh, but I don't know why. But then it's not about that when she's doing the thing. Obviously, it's about like all the emotions of all the other characters, like Joel as well. Joel, Susie, when they put their hand on their chest and stuff, and Abe, like his whole thing coming full circle.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. I was a bit underwhelmed by like the last couple of scenes. Like I get it, like because they're older now and they're just still friends and they're watching their VHSs and stuff together. But I don't know. I feel like it could have had another ending. I don't know what that ending would have been, but I think it kind of it was a bit too calm.
Yeah,
I think I would have liked it if the ending was like was her doing stand up or something. I don't know, like you know.
yeah, I thought that because I thought like the big like emotional hit I think is when she does the like the sketch, like when she finally does her show on TV, and like all of your sort of like investment in the character is suddenly like paying off, and she's delivering like an amazing like set, and like the section there as well about like women going out and getting like what they want and the career they want and all that stuff, that was great. And like all of your emotion is wrapped up in that moment. It's like she's essentially thrown everything she has on the line to do this.
And Susie's career as well.
Yeah. And that's I think where you're kind of like that's your emotional hit, and then afterwards it's sort of just like I don't know what the next emotional beat would be, because you've had such a high from like she's done it, like she's actually done this, and like you know what comes next, like you know she hits stardom and it goes wild. And so like I guess like the only way they can do it is just to go for like this middle ground of like they sort of just live, like they're just,
but they don't seem like they seem rich, don't they? But they just don't seem like they've got anything they really want. Like
yeah,
I don't
kind
know,
of.
which
It's
is
just yeah, they're just sort of like yeah.
it's like oh, was it worth? Almost like was it worth all of it? But I know it probably is because they're really old at that point. But I don't know. I kind of think maybe like having her, even if she was older, going back to the, like something like the Gaslight,
Yeah,
like or her just performing in front of like a few
small
people,
crowd or something. Yeah,
like a small crowd would have been good. But the whole thing, what I mean, what a surprise! Like I've said a million times, I wouldn't have ever expected to like it when I heard
yeah,
like the words come out of my wife Yannika's mouth, like let's watch the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I was like, let's not watch the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It sounds terrible. And then from the first two episodes or so, I was just hooked. Like I was in,
yeah,
and I don't think until I was a bit put off by this season's flash forwards, I don't think there's been an episode where I haven't enjoyed every episode. I think I've enjoyed every character. I've enjoyed every long-winded cast. Like there's episodes that we talked about where it's like it's just constant dialogue. I like how Friends used to those episodes where it was just shot in the apartment and it was just all of them doing this thing. Like they had so many of those. Like so fucking well written. Like
yeah, just insanely well written. And
so like we said about like the newsroom and stuff, right?
yeah,
Some of the dialogue is just like so packed with just wit and just smarts. It's just a great TV show. Like, and
yeah,
I know it's got well received, but probably aren't half as many people watching it as who should have watched it. And man, if you haven't started it, then you're in for a treat.
yeah, it is just phenomenal, like through and through. Like knowing where the flash forwards go now, do you think that works? Like, do you feel?
Yeah, I do now. Yeah, I do. I think they just seem really out because it happened so quickly. It wasn't like here's two episodes to get you back into it after the break. It was like bam, this is a daughter older, and bam, this is her older brother, and bam, like she's older. Her and Susie aren't friends, and she seemed like such a snob, like Midge did. Like she seemed really like over it. But then that was interesting, like seeing like okay, so now this is why Susie and Midge aren't friends anymore, which was like 5 episodes in. This is why Joel's in prison. Like this is this and this is this, and I guess you feel sorry for Joel really because he really redeemed himself, like as it went on, which is just a special thing. That phone call when Midge said she's on the show, and he's like, "Talk about me, like say whatever you want." And that was the thing that pissed him off so much in the first 2 episodes. It's just everyone came full circle. Like everyone had a bit to shine as well in the last episode, and I think even Magda she had a bit in the bathroom on the phone. So like 10 out of 10. I would give it 10 out of 10 for the whole run.
Yeah, I would as well. It was just like perfect 5 seasons. Like there really isn't a lot you can kind of go like that didn't work or that didn't feel right. Like
no, and it's good that it ended. I wish I remember when it was announced as the last one. Both of us and my wife were kind of like, that's we were bummed that it's over. But there is such a thing, and that's the same with something like Ted Lasso as well. Like I said to you in England, like I don't know if it is the end, because it feels like they're probably going to do more, and they have said they might do something else in the future, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it naturally felt like when I watched the penultimate episode that you said, well, I've seen that, and I know it does feels like they're really wrapping things up. Like it doesn't need another season. Like
No,
4 seasons
no.
would be enough. And it's nice that I said again when I was watching with Yannick, I was like, I don't think they're going to win the league. Like I don't think they need to win the league either, do they? They just need to have had like a ride. Like they just had to get to the top and everything like that. And that's what, as a football fan myself, that's why I'm not a fan of a huge team. But it's not. Yes, of course, we'd love to win titles, but it's about like getting better. Like that's like winning things, and that's what this Richmond team did. Like all came together, and Jamie Tartt got put in his place. So that and Miss Maisel, like the fact that they're naturally ended at probably the right point, is great.
Yeah,
it shows like The Walking Dead, right? If that had ended in season 3, we'd all be happier.
Probably, yeah. Also, Black Sails, like something like I always think Black Sails.
Oh, Black Sails, stand out. Ray Stevenson is got to
so good. But that's something as well where it's like when they announce the final season, it's like, oh, but then like when you watch it, you're like, yeah, it's that.
It was good that it ended,
yeah.
I feel like it was like the first TV show that you and I really got into talking about like properly when it was on, because I think you had seen it before me, hadn't you?
I think so, because I started it when it like first aired, and I was like, oh, it sounds cool, like pirates, and it's like Game of Thrones pirates. And then I think I watched the first season, and I was like, nobody else is like watching this. Am I weird? Like, what's going on?
So, yeah, because I think you'd definitely seen quite a lot compared to me, because I remember watching a lot of it when I moved here. I didn't have much going on. I was like, I'll just try it, and then I was like, I was watching like Black Sails at like 8 a.m. in the morning. I was like, is there a right or wrong time to watch this show? Because it doesn't feel like an 8 a.m. show. That was good as well. And again, like came to the right conclusion. So I think it's good when you pick your time, like when to do, because there are plenty of shows that, man, Walking Dead and things, and they just keep going. Like it's just like, Jesus Christ, like how can you do more? So
Maisel, you nailed it.
Maisel, I mean, there's lots of positivity in this episode. I feel like that's
except for Lenny.
Very unlike.
Like Lenny was.
It's a bit of a shame, But I was a bit confused by Lenny at first, because I thought, is that a flashback? Like, is it pre him being big? But then it was no. He's like, he's got to the sun and he's like burnt his wings, like, which is a shame as well. And also good that I thought they could easily just have Midge talk to her as well, but instead they went, no, he's fucked it. Susie's talked to him. Midge isn't going to talk to him, and then like 10 minutes later, it's back to Midge and Lenny pre Lenny having going wrong, and Midge hasn't made it yet. So just all the way it's like the way they probably planned the script and stuff is like just top notch.
Yes, it was genius. And I saw that. I think I read this anyway, that their final scene that they filmed, like they asked Rachel Brosnan what she wanted to be like the last thing that they filmed, and it was the like where she's on Gordon Ford, because she was like, everybody's there, and it's like everybody's going to be together. And I think somebody said that the director just like kept sort of doing takes of it, because it was like, as soon as I call it an end of dead, it's done. And like that seemed really nice. It's something about it just seemed.
Yeah, they see all the things you see when they've done like promos and stuff. They seem like they're gone. She's heavily rumored to be up for Lois Lane, isn't she?
Yeah, which is great. Like I would be
so awesome casting.
That. Like she is incredible. So yeah, so I'd be ready for that. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode. But before we do say goodbye, just a couple of things. We also have our Kickstarter still going. It's in the last 24 hours now. So if you're listening to this, it's what is it? Friday the 10th of June?
9th?
9th of June? Friday the 9th of June. Yeah. This is coming out.
Yeah.
So our Kickstarter Lone Tales Volume 1, it still has a good chunk to go. We're very hopeful that we see it through and it gets funded. But anyone who supported it that listens to the podcast, we thank you very much, whether it's successful or not successful. But if you are listening to this and you want to check it out, it's 2 comics in one. It's 124 pages. One's sort of like a sci-fi horror and the other is a thriller. So Find us on our social media channels. So if you want to see that, you can find Nick and I both on Twitter, or you can go to Twitter and search for Consistently Pod, or Instagram Consistently Pod, or you can see all our podcasts as well if you go on YouTube and search for Consistently OK Podcast, and you can just find us on any podcast server as well. And if you're interested in our Kickstarter or any other old podcasts, you can find everything on those channels.
Yes.
And that's it. Our next episode is going to be an in-depth episode, which is Zack and Miri Make a Porno. So it'll be out a little bit later than we had liked. My fault as always. But it will be with you as soon as possible. So if you're looking forward to that, then we promise it will be with you over the next few days. And that's it, I think, Nick. Lots of positivity today.
It was, yeah. No,
let's bring it back down to earth next episode. Let's just shit all over Zack and Miri Make the Porno.
No.
All right. Thanks very much, everyone, for listening. And Nick, I will talk to you soon.
Cool. Catch you there.
All right. Bye.